What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Manufacturing Come Up, and we're coming from live from FabTech 2022. Look at all the people in the background. There's a ton of people here. Matter of fact, we had to skip registration because we had to get on a podcast with our friends from Fanuc, Adam Willea. Welcome to the show, Adam.
This episode of the Manufacturing Come Up is sponsored by Elite Automation.
Elite Automation is a systems integrator specializing in robotic weld cell applications, and especially the design and manufacturing of the weld fixture.
If you have any robotic weld cell needs, you can reach us at rfq@eliteautomationusa.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you.
All good, man. No, I really appreciate you having me on the show. I was super excited when you reached out. Just really glad to talk about a little bit how I got here and kind of hopefully help inspire and guide some other people who are looking to get into robotics and automation.
Yeah, so I guess let's go ahead and start this thing out by tell us where you're currently at in your career.
Awesome. Yeah. So, like you guys said, my name's Adam Willea. I'm a district sales manager for Fanuc Robotics. I'm responsible for the entire state of Florida for robotics sales and support, as well as the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and so on.
Awesome. When are you going to pass us some of those orders?
Yeah, there you go, right?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, so you definitely established a really cool position, and I think it's a position of prestige, and so you obviously had to go through a rough road, a rocky road to get where you're at today. Can you tell us where did this all begin? Like what were you like as a young teenager, child? Mm-hmm. Were you thinking about this industry whatsoever?
Dude, that is the perfect lead-in question because the story really does begin that many years ago. I feel like an old man now. I'm 34. I turn 35 next month. I'm feeling old, showing some gray on the sides, but it really did start when I was 18. So I'm in Florida, which life is awesome, but I was born and raised in Michigan. And when I was 18, I was attending Grand Valley State University, go Lakers, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I was taking some core engineering curriculum. So at this point, I had already kind of decided, like, I'm good at math, I'm good at physics, and, I'm really bad at everything else. Like, I could tell how my brain was wired, right? Like, all through high school, just mathematics, and I took a lot of CAD, design classes all in high school. And that came really easy to me, and everything else just couldn't capture my attention, right? So I knew engineering something. I knew where I was wired. But what Grand Valley did, and plug for them, if anyone's near West Michigan, great school because, and a lot of schools do this, they start all engineers off on a core curriculum and make you like check out a bunch of different things to see what you're good at and what you like before you go into a niche.
Yeah. And
in one of my programming classes, our professor was like, you know what? We're taking a field trip. And we're like, field trip? What the heck? He says, yeah, we're going to take a field trip. We're going to go visit a custom automation shop in Holland, Michigan called JR Automation. Nice. And we're like, I didn't even know what that meant. I lived in West Michigan, didn't have a clue what that meant. You got to remember, 16 years ago, there were no robotics classes in high school. There wasn't even a robotics division at Grand Valley at the time. Mm-hmm. Didn't know what I was walking into. We took a field trip to JR Automation, and I walked in, and the first time I saw a robot, I just felt like I was on the set of a sci-fi movie. I'm like, what is this? Like, no one told me this existed. And it was cool because in my coding class, you're sitting there compiling, C# or C++ here, and you just compile code and you get a little output and you're like, yay, it worked. But when you program a robot, there's physical movement, there's motion, there's assembly, something's happening, there's servo wind and things are moving. It's just so cool to see your code manifested into real life. And at the time, the president of JR was Brian Jones, and he asked the the tour from college, he said, "What do you guys want to do when you grow up? You know, what do you want to do when you graduate?" And everyone kind of sat there staring at each other, waiting for an answer. And my hand shot up. I said, "That, I want to do that." And Brian said, "Come talk to me before the class leaves." So everybody leaves, and I sit down with Brian. He goes, "You want an internship?" I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, I do." And so I started right in while I was still in college. I started right off the bat as an early teen working at JR Automation as an intern. And that immediately shaped my life. So fast forward, what it did is it got me to decide that I wanted to earn my bachelor's of science in electrical engineering. I went double E, mainly because I almost flunked out of my truss class, like truss systems. Like you see any of these triangles behind me? I couldn't do it. I about failed. I'm like, okay, I'm not an ME, can't do it. But electrical came very natural to me, so it helped me guide me that way. And the internship with JR, and graduated, got a job as a controls engineer at JR. And then I moved from there to a smaller startup company. I was employee number 6, and we grew that to about 30 people. Company still in West Michigan called Advanced Mechatronics. Awesome company. Some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. Dan Wilson, if you see this on LinkedIn, DW, I love you. I miss you. But Advanced Mechatronics, awesome company. I just couldn't take snow and ice anymore. I couldn't take living in the north. So my wife and I decided to move. She's a nurse. She can do whatever she wants, anywhere she wants. So we decided to move. And we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And living in Charlotte is where I started with Fanuc. So I had a background program in Fanuc from Advanced Mechatronics and JR. Fanuc took me on, and my job was robotics engineer. I supported companies from Virginia down to Florida and from the Atlantic over to Mississippi. And I would just get dispatched around helping people with robot problems, programming, installations, design, everything. So life was going good as an engineer. I had my engineering degree. I was an engineer. Life is good. Everything's fine. Enter Dick Motley of Fanuc. And I'm sure Dick will see this. And I love you, Dick. You're the man. Dick was my boss, and he kind of started nudging me. He goes, "Adam," he goes, "you need to be in sales." I'm like, "No way, man." I said, I couldn't even sell a candy bar in the Club Scouts. You know, I don't know. He goes, "No," he goes, "You're way too chatty of an engineer to not be in sales." If you haven't figured this out by now in the podcast, I don't shut up. Sorry for hijacking it, but it's who I am.
Very good.
So Dick Motley recognized that, and he's like, "You got to go into sales. You got to go into sales." And he worked on me, and he groomed me for about a year. Kind of transitioned me from engineering to inside sales so I could learn the lay of the land, support our outside sales guys. And then finally the day came. He's like, "You ready for the big leagues?" I'm like, "Well, what do I got to do?" He said, "You got to move to Florida." All right, man, twist my arm, I've got to go live in eternal paradise, live where people vacation. And I've now been in my role in sales for, it'll be 5 years this January. And man, what a blessing, and what an intersection of the explosion of the industry and the transition in my career, because anyone watching this knows automation is just at this exponential peak right now. I mean, it is clearly the place to be. And I literally got here by accident. I literally started in high school. Like, the only thing I'm good at is math. Okay, go to college. Well, go on a field trip, saw a robot for the first time in my life at age 18. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Good, cool guy gives me a shot. Took advantage of that shot. So, you could literally pinpoint years of my life where somebody, some mentor, some higher up, some owner, some president, some manager opened a door, right? Like, they literally saw me working hard, saw me excelling. And like, you might have heard the saying, like, opportunity will find you, but it better find you working. Like
Yeah.
if you're applying yourself and you're giving 100%, someone's going to see that and open a door. Dude, I never knew I would be in robotics. I never would have dreamt I'd be in sales. And I sure as heck would have never moved to Florida of all places. Never in a million years would have thought of Florida. And here I am, a robotics salesman in Florida. The three things I thought would never happen in my life are the three things that define me now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. And like you said, it was like a mentor. It was like generally it was like some moment, something of like, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, does this sound like you're interested in? Or, you know, just like how that moment of that one field trip, like if you wouldn't have took that one field trip, like where would your life have been? Like, you never know. Could have went completely different.
Totally.
So those opportunities are huge. I mean, you said one thing at the very beginning, whenever you said, what do you guys want to do? You raised your hand, you said, I want to do that. Right. And I had literally that exact same thing, but I was at the college, right? I went to the college and I'm like, guys, I got to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have to do something. Right. And so they started listing off their different degree programs. They're like, we have mechanics, we have, you know, welding, we have automation. I'm like, what's that? And they started like listing off some different things, and they said robots. And I said, that one, you know, very clearly. I was like, that one. I just stopped her in her tracks, you know? So it was like a very hard, like, I knew like this was the direction, you know?
Dude, I love hearing that, because you and I both had it where there was an epiphany moment, right? Like your brain saw something and subconsciously you're like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever. I have to do that. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. Like they go to school because they're told to go to school, and they go to college because they're told to go to college, and it's work hard, get good grades, get an internship, get a job, get a degree, blah, blah, blah. And there's this fixed path. And in some ways, like that did really work for me. I mean, I got lucky, but I've also seen people that like, you know, they're 10, 20 years into their career and they're like, I'm unhappy. I can't take this. And they just go to a trade school and just pick up something that speaks to them. You know, like one of my heroes is Mike Rowe. Just watch anything by Mike Rowe. You know, just find something you're passionate about and you're good at, and then just charge that as hard as possible, right? Like, you know, like I said, for me, I would have loved to have been a mechanical engineer. I sucked at it and it was boring, right? So I had to find that thing that like, oh man, these are so cool. Because when something's cool, it's easy to work hard and not even know you're getting into it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing that tends to be an issue is individuals spending too much time trying to decide what they're going to do. Like they have to go out and have to start tasting stuff, right? So I like one of my recommendations to people is like, if you don't have an idea, go grab a 2-year degree, right? Maybe get it in automation, robotics, or somewhere in this industry, because you know it's going to be booming. You know you're going to have a job. You're going to make good money. You're not going to struggle to find a job. All these boxes are ticked off, right?
Yep.
And then from there, worst case scenario, you don't use it at all. It's 2 years, right?
Yep. And
after you get that 2-year degree, now you're set up to make, you know, if you go to the control side of things, you're easily over $25 an hour.
Oh yeah.
And you know, there's some people that may never experience $25 an hour in their life, and it's literally only 2 years of school to change that.
100%, dude. That is so true. And like, you know, even how at Grand Valley, there's a lot of schools that do it, but like when I was at school, they made you take product development, they made you take mechanical, they made you take electrical, they made you take computer science, they made you take all these different classes so that you can kind of feel what you're good at. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. Like, I have a 4-year double E degree, but I mean, I'm not saying that I could be where I am today with or without it, but I would say that everything I learned on the job. Like my degree up there. My degree was a piece of paper that got me hired. But then, like I said, I didn't even see a robot till I was on the plant floor. you know, and then I had, you know, people on the job teaching me. You know, one of my good friends at JR, Ken Burr, you know, Ken, he, you know, just taught me everything I needed to know about PLCs, Allen Bradley, panel view HMIs, you know, Fanuc robots. I think it's important not just for yourself to like learn and strive, but network, right? Plug in, surround yourself with people who are experienced, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and literally just soak up that free knowledge. Like it's literally free. Just be their shadow, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so that was like a big thing that I actually really missed out on in my career. So like I worked for a somewhat smaller systems integrator. I think at their biggest, they may have been at like 13, 15 employees or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were just a smaller company, smaller network. Like a lot of the guys like that were working there, they came from, like one of them used to be a school teacher and learned robot programming. Another one was a electronic repair individual, and they learned robot programming, PLC programming, was super sharp. You know, these guys were, you know, all super sharp, but they also had probably a disconnect with the industry, right?
Right.
They were good at their job, so like the customers we had, like there was a good connection there. But even for me, like I did a lot of work on capital projects, and so, you know, it was a lot of build time. It was 6 months, 9 months, 1 year of build time, and you know, customers are only coming on site ever so often, you know, once every 3 months, once, you know, every 6 months, something like that, maybe a little bit more frequently towards the end of the deployment. But so there was not a lot of face-to-face interaction with me with customers because I wasn't the on the road guy doing a lot of the work. So here I am in a building with, you know, the same, you know, 13, 15 guys all the time for the most part, you know, and then, you know, for me, especially with being a business owner, right, I transitioned from, you know, knowing a select few individuals, and then all on top of that, like a lot of the individuals that I knew customer base wise, now I couldn't even really. I had to be careful on my communication with them because I had a non-compete with starting this company. You know, that was one of the big things. Like, hey, just don't go after our customers, and we're good, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's like all the few people I did know, I wasn't able to really have access to and whatnot. So 101%. Like, I mean, we've had very, very successful and quick growth here at Elite, but I think it would have been even better. Like we would have been just slammed with like work if I would have just like networked and had so many different connections and friends. What's going on? So many different connections and friends and
like that connection where people are like, yeah, look at that. That's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I missed out on that. So like starting a business, now everything's been a grind. And then we started in COVID. So now there's like one of my things was like, okay, I don't know anybody. I need to go to events and get to know people. Right.
Yeah.
And, well, COVID, so no events. Right. So like, I was like that completely shifted like what we had to do to start getting known and start meeting new people and things like that. And, for us, like we had to do that virtually for a big portion of it because even then, like customers weren't letting new vendors in the facility. I mean, I think it was like,
oh, dude,
don't get me wrong, there was a few customers here and there, but like it wasn't until like the 2021 or something where like the doors were kind of getting back to being wide open, where they're just allowing new vendors all the time.
Oh, there's so much truth to that. And man, seriously, all the respect in the world to you for what you did in the timeline of the world, right? That you did it in. You know, that's one of the big things too, is business ownership, right? Versus working for a company too. And you had the guts and the moxie to go out there and start your own business. I will fully admit I'm a scaredy cat. I'd rather have my salary paycheck and my 401k. I've always been a little too afraid to pull the trigger and start my own thing. But that's I think that's part of it too, is how brains are wired. You are wired as an entrepreneur, right? And you're killing it. And actually, I want to touch on one more thing you said, just a quick plug. You know, during the heat of the pandemic, you're trying to grow a business and can't travel. I was an outside sales guy who couldn't travel, right? And so during the pandemic, I'm like, man, what can I do to network, help people, and just keep myself busy while being stuck in the house? And that's when I started my Fanuc YouTube training channel. So on YouTube, I started it in like April of 2020. No surprise. But it's all Fanuc training. And I wanted to take my 11 years of engineering and just put that out there for people, like you were just saying, like people who are, looking for a career change or looking to get into something or dabble. Even some of my videos are like experienced users who just need tips and tricks you can't find in the manuals. It's like, what can you do to, take that knowledge and pass it on to the next people? So many people in my life imparted knowledge on me to make my life better. How can I do that and pass it on? Right. Heard a really cool phrase one time that said, knowledge is the one thing you can give away and never run out of. Right. Like it's not like money. You give your money away, you're out. Knowledge, you can give it away and never run out of it. So it just helps people to do that, and I think that's a testament to your podcast too. Like anyone who's clicking on your stuff, hopefully it's helping them in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the big reasons for starting this podcast was just like, I was kind of one of those individuals that didn't know a path. So like if somebody can click on this and kind of get some experience and also like firsthand experience, like there's a lot of things that like, there's not a lot of podcasts that go into people's history, especially in our industry, right? Like really digging deep into like the step-by-step, like how you kind of ended up to where you're at. Cause there's, even for me, like a big thing, and probably part of the reason why I started a company is I didn't grow up in like a very positive atmosphere. So like I kind of had a lot of disbelief in myself. And at some point in time, I was kind of like, nobody's gonna give me the opportunity that I can give myself. And part of that is just because that's just the truth when it comes to like being a business owner. But then the other thing is too, I'm just not the best at promoting. I'd be like that guy that was overlooked, right? And I may have been I may have operated better, I may have managed teams better, been a better controls engineer, all the things, right? But maybe I don't go up to Billy Joe's office and talk to him every day and just shoot the crap. So then I'd get passed up on something like that. So being able to distill like, and people hear those type of things, like may make them and help them make the different shifts throughout their career.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, yeah, dude, there's so much truth in that too, right? Like, not what it's who like it's frustrating when you see someone get passed up or something because they just didn't go golfing with the CEO that weekend or whatever, right? Like it's a sad, harsh reality of the world, but but I really do feel that like hard work and karma goes around, right? Like you get out what you give in, and I don't know. I think it's more important to make your mark and do what you can to help other people than it is to just climb a corporate ladder and rub elbows the right way,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it wasn't for like me trying to navigate in different ways and trying to be better at this and that, to maybe be seen and to get more raises and things like that, I would have there's definitely a portion of me that would have not have learned some of the things that I've learned. To be able to be in a position of starting a business and be able to start a business and operate as successfully as we have. And that's just been, this is actually one of my like very core beliefs that goes into that. And it's adding more value than anybody else around you.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's always like some type of universal return to that, whether, I don't go into the mind of ever expecting anything back out of that.
Yep.
But I just always think like, hey, how can I do this to add more value to this person? And then I think just some way the universe rewards that. And
dude, 100%. I literally couldn't agree more. Like that's a pretty good philosophy to hold on to, just, I do like that, add value, and what people forget, especially in industry, because we're all just so we're all engineers. So everything's all black and white. There's a problem, there's a solution. We got to get there. But what you forget is like let's look at elite automation, right? You're providing a system solution to someone. Okay, that's great. You're looking at a business case, build the thing, deliver it, get paid. But that someone is using that solution, like they're buying it from you on the premise that they're measured on some KPI. They need better throughput, better ROI, better something. So that guy that you're selling to, you are literally changing his life. Like the roof he puts over his family's table is hingent upon your system that you're delivering, right? His job is to better his company, better the throughput, make the orders, get things out the door. And if he doesn't do that, his life, I say this dramatically, but his life changes, right? Like it's his livelihood. He's a person with real life problems and real life struggles and stuff he's going through. And when he turns to someone in automation and says, yes, I will hire you to put robots over here. Dude, you're not just putting a robot in. You are literally changing the performance of a company, which changes paychecks, which changes probably his kid's college fund, for crying out loud, right? So everything we do has such a ripple effect, it's just that's why, like you said, bring value. Don't just try and sell a product or sell yourself. Bring some value and make that guy's life a little bit easier than what it would have been without you.
Yeah. You mentioned something there that with us providing value by providing a system. In all honesty, like the first year to 2 years of us being in business, I didn't even really like in my heart feel that we were adding a value to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And there was some like passion and fire kind of missing, right? And I don't know what it is or why, but like something about when we started getting into robotic welding, I started feeling that. I started feeling like we're really providing a value. Like even though, adding the, robotic palletizer to the end of line is adding value. But something about like when we started doing the robotic welding side of things, it was like, I think one of the big things is like we're helping that engineer. Like he has a job to get done. He has, this weld fixture that needs to be designed and they need to deploy that program at a specific time to meet their customers' end needs. And so there's like very clear deadlines that everybody has to hit to make sure that like that vehicle can get manufactured.
Oh, exactly.
And something about that and like the communication that goes on with the customer, like has definitely got me fired up and more passionate about us truly adding a value, from the heart, from the heart.
Seriously, from the heart. And like, and it goes both ways too, right? Like there's such a euphoric feeling when you deliver something and you just see someone all happy and wow, high five, this is great. We're making money, life is good. And then let's be real, there's problems and there's debug and there's weird things that come up in automation, right? And on the other side, you got to have the, how do I want to say, the ethics, the engineering ethical mindset that you don't walk away from someone like, sorry, there's your robot, you bought it, see you later. Like, no, I take it personally. If someone buys a robot and they're not happy with it, dude, it wrecks my day until I can get in there and make them happy. Whether it's a reprogram, a retool, a redesign, swap a robot out, whatever it takes. Like it literally will keep me up at night and like wreck my day if someone is not 100% happy and people, corporate, whatever. It's like, no, dude, it's real. Like, how can you sleep at night if you sell something to someone and they feel cheated or they feel let down or whatever it is? I think it just comes down to the passion, right? The passion and caring about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you brought that one up because I think that actually played a role into me feeling more passionate, because the reason why we got into like the robotic welding side of things is hiring individuals who had robotic welding experience. And not only like these guys have robotic welding experience, but they're the guys that put in the 18 hours, they'll sleep in their car, they'll go back inside and start crunching at it again. He says, one of my guys, he says, just give me 5 minutes to go outside, smoke a cigarette. I'll go back in and so you said I'll work another 8 hours. Like,
Yep.
okay, man. But like,
Yep.
I think that just them being that passionate about what they do and them willing to put their work into it, like, that much work with that much heart, like we did, not walking away until we're finished. It builds that sense of like pride and just where you feel like you're really, really adding the value and executing.
Yep.
This episode of the Manufacturing Come Up is sponsored by Elite Automation.
Elite Automation is focusing on AMR technologies. AMRs are autonomous mobile robots used in your facility to transfer goods or products from one side of your facility to the other.
This is a super powerful tool, and it's a new piece of technology that us as systems integrators can utilize as a tool to leverage your company to be more advanced than the next company and be able to automate systems that at one point were not able to be automated.
If you have any AMR needs, you can reach us at rfq@eliteautomationusa.com.
And it should be, and it really should be, and it does. It just comes back down to the passion and legitimately caring, right? Like, I don't know what kind of job, if I was, I don't know, wasn't it like Roosevelt, Eisenhower, one of them, who said, "Whatever you are, be a good one." Right? Like, I don't care if you're the shopping cart retriever at Publix, right? Like, do it with the best passion ever, because that shopping cart could blow away and smash into somebody's Porsche or Tesla, right? Like, just whatever it is, like, you better be super into it or don't do it at all. You gotta really, really care about it and be into it, and there's probably 8 million careers that if I was plunked into, I would just hate it and I would half-ass it and just mail it in and just get my 8 hours and bail out. But it takes that one job where, I mean, dude, especially in sales, like, sales never sleeps. Like, that is legit. Like, phone is on 24/7, 365, vacations, holidays, nights, weekends, people call me. But dude, I mean, for every problem that someone calls me with, there's probably a phone call with a purchase order tied to it. And that's a pretty darn good day. Right. So it's legit about helping people. People always think that you can only help people if you're in healthcare. Nah, man, it's everywhere.
Absolutely. Going back into your career, whenever you landed the sales position, what was that like at the beginning?
Can I say hellish nightmare? Anyone who knows me knows that the first, I bet you the first 8 months, like the better part of a year, it was filled with stress, no sleep, regret. It was so hard. I don't know if my friend Brian LaPlante will watch this. Brian, because my friend Brian went from engineering to sales as well. And now he sells Fanuc out in Arizona. It was so hard. And I legit was just like, take me back, put me back in engineering. Just let me be my cubicle. Let me write my code. Let me work 8 to 5. And just, it was so bad. Yeah. It was and you know what else made it bad? And you can definitely empathize with this. I lived in Michigan for 23 years. Then I lived in Carolina for like 2 or 3 years. When I moved to Florida, not only did I know nobody, I didn't know the highway systems. I didn't know travel. I didn't know the companies. Nobody knew me. Yeah. I was just this phantom person, right? How do you go from being a complete nobody to selling to as many businesses as possible in a state, right? And it was so hard. And you know this because you started your business in COVID, with a new book of business. How do you reach new people as fast as possible? And I was like stressing myself out so bad. And it was my boss, James Farmer. He says, dude, it's organic growth. There is no such thing as an easy button. You can't just be like, boop, there, everybody in Florida knows me. It's phone calls, meetings, travel, putting the time in, Zoom, WebEx, whatever. And masking up and knocking on doors. And it literally took me a year of just organic growth to the point where I hit enough of a stride that I was even making a paycheck that was worth buying, able to buy us a house. My wife and I were actually homeless for a few weeks. That was fun. Different story, totally different story, but related. But it was so hard. And I have a very engineering mindset, still do, where there's a problem, there's a solution, and the faster to get from point A to point B is just work harder, work more hours. Well, in sales, working harder and working more hours does not necessarily get you more purchase orders, right?
Right.
So like when I had to install a robot and someone said, this has to be running by Monday. Okay, guess we're working Saturday and Sunday and it'll be done Monday.
Yeah.
But in sales, if the end of the month is coming and I don't have any orders, I can't work Saturday and Sunday and just poof, manifest more orders. And so the cognitive dissonance in my brain, like I literally couldn't handle, how can I be successful? I'm working so hard. I'm trying so hard. I'm just spinning my wheels. And good Lord, I mean, I don't know, maybe hats off to my wife for keeping me sane and keeping me alive and pushing me through it and helping me out. I guess I'll probably credit her, but perseverance and time. And after I survived that first year, year 2 was easier. Year 3 was easier. Year 4 was easier. Now I'm coming into year 5. And it's like, now people know me, right? Like, people are like, oh yeah, call Adam, and it's just like, I've helped so many people that like, they'll tell their friends like, oh, this robot that's running my shop, I got it from Adam, give him a call. Right. Yeah. And so then you start getting referrals, and it really, James was right. It really is organic growth. There's no cheater way to like go viral in sales or whatever, you just gotta put the time in and put your head down and work ridiculous hours. And sometimes you got to get through the low spots in life to get there. But I really am glad you asked that question, because people think that it's just some magical thing that I graduated from engineering to sales and, moving to Florida was great and money was great and everything was great. No, it was hell for a year, and I had to make it be good.
Right. What are some of the things that you feel like you did in the beginning to help you through that process?
Part of it was, I would say the biggest part was time management. Really not getting, I had to not allow myself to get bogged down too deep into the details of one thing, because I had 100 irons in the fire every given day. And there's not enough hours in the day. You'll burn out, right? Legit burn out. So part of it was time management, mental health. Like you said, the guy who's like, okay, let me go outside, smoke a cigarette, breathe. I'll come back in. I'll be good. Part of it was just taking care of myself. And then part of it too was almost just like this Zen submission of just, I'm going to leave it all on the court, and whatever happens, happens. Because in sales, that's how it is. You can't put a gun to someone's head and have them sign a check. You just go in there, you tell them your piece, and you compare with your competitors, and you speak from the heart, try and treat them good, and then leave them alone. Don't pester them. Don't piss them off and get a restraining order. Don't slander, don't slander the bad guys. Just be real, be genuine. And then once you leave it all on the court and you walk away, hey, if you get an order, you get an order. If you don't, try again tomorrow. And so I found a little bit of a like serenity just in the Zen of, it is what it is, dude. Like, I can only do so much as a person, and I can only try so hard. And if I get it, I get it, and so I would actually say, and that's, you asked another good question there. I'd say a big part of it was just the mental health. I mean, I could have put myself in an early grave of bourbon and cigarettes. Bourbon. The bourbon hasn't stopped. It's just gone less. But it's just like, take care of yourself, stay sharp, just kind of the golden rule, just treat people the way you want to be treated, and it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, dude, it doesn't, just go on to the next thing. I mean, I'm sure Elite has quoted some projects that you would have been a really good solution for, and you didn't get the order, and that sucks. You put time, money, energy, everything into an order, You don't get the job. Okay,
Yeah.
well, didn't get it. Hope
Mhm.
we get the next one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. One like strategical thing that's definitely helped out a ton, because I came from being that engineer, the controls engineer, and going into business owner. So now I have to be the sales guy, which was like never any part of my job,
Mhm.
and also have that very engineering mindset. Very very similar. Just want to just put in more hours, work harder, and I think I can get more results. And it like you said, it doesn't really work like that. Or if it does work like that, you just don't see the results for 2 more years.
Yes.
Which is the hard part. Um,
Yes.
Calling was one thing though that has made a significant impact in our business. So we were very like virtual, like, hey, like email follow up. Hey, where are we at with this? Hey, where are we at with that? Right.
Mhm.
And like as soon as we started picking up the phone and being like, hey man, just want to see where you're at with this RFQ, like da 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 da, like um, started having those conversations with individuals, and also too pressing to be like very open, like, look, tell
Mhm.
us why you don't want to use us, like
Yeah.
that's been very significant in our approach. And they're like, well, actually this tooling costing is like just astronomical, like what's going on here?
Yeah.
Let's go back and look at it. Let us reevaluate,
Mhm.
and that's just been like very very significantly impactful, like having like going back into a relationship.
Yeah.
And email is not a relationship as much as like a phone and saying, hey, how's it going? Like I haven't heard from you for a while. Like, um,
Yeah.
it's
Dude, that's you are, man, you're preaching. Like I've had it before where we can just get to the resolution so much faster if everyone's transparent. Put all the cards on the table. Tell me what you're thinking. Here's my product, here's my support, here's my pricing. I've showed you the technology, I've showed you the price, I've showed you that we're there for you.
Mhm.
Where are the holes? What are your objections? What are your fears? What's holding you back? Let's just talk. Be
Yeah.
human, right? Human. And one of the cool things about me taking my sales role in Florida is I'm actually the first ever Fanuc district manager to live in Florida.
Oh wow.
So previously, all the Fanuc sales guys who covered Florida, they lived out of state, Carolinas or Georgia or whatever, and they just kind of bop in and check on Florida.
Yeah.
Dude, I live in Bradenton, Florida, right in the middle of the state, Gulf side, and like when I talk to a customer, they'll be like, "Man, I really wish you could come see my facility up here in Orlando." I'm like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" They're like, "Are you
Yeah.
serious?" And they're just shocked, right? They're like, "Are you
Yeah.
serious?" I'm like, "Dude, it's a 2-hour drive. I'll be there tomorrow. When do you open?" And they're like, "Oh," and they're just like, "Oh my God, that's great." I've gotten more orders just because I drop everything and get in my truck and just drive over,
Yeah.
because I'm there, I'm present. It's just, and previously that didn't exist, at least for Fanuc down in Florida.
Yeah.
So, like you said, that human to human relationship, show up. One drive, one afternoon out of your life to just show up and knock on a door and sit down with someone or grab a cup of coffee or something,
Mhm.
can make all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing, like strategically that we've done a little bit different. So we got, at one point in time, everything had to be virtual meetings, and
Right,
because of,
right.
and then as we, as things got lifted and everything like that, then we had the ability to travel and go visit these people, but it's like, okay, well, that's an 8-hour drive. That's because
Mhm.
we service nationwide, so it's not far fetched that we'll go drive a 14-hour drive and then stay the night and come back the next day, like,
Mhm.
you know, and
Yeah.
but it's like, man, you think about that, it's like, oh, that's 2 days lost, in a sense, along with costs that are associated with it. Um, but I think going back and like you said, like just showing up, because we're back to doing that now. That's what I'm
Yeah.
leaning into. Is we're back to doing that. So like we don't care. Like we do now. What we try to do is we try to do a virtual meeting first, get a
Yep.
premise of what their facility is and does exactly. So
Yep.
that way we have kind of the gears turning in our head to know exactly what we're getting into, and
Mhm.
then we plan that on site. We try to do it as quickly as possible this week, next week. Like
Yeah.
like literally, like we stopped in Magna on our way down here,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, well, we can either wait till next week, or we can do this now. And so like that's another big thing that we try to push for. And I think it's very very impressive to individuals. They're like, tomorrow. Yeah, actually I am available tomorrow. Like, and
I love that you mentioned Magna. My code still lives in many of the Magna Mears plants in West Michigan.
oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
Maybe we'll have the chance to go in there and mess around with some of your code.
There you go, man. Look for the Easter eggs. I always used to put bits with my initials in it, like a one-shot bit, like, because you can name a one-shot whatever you want. Who cares? It's a one-shot, right? It'd be AJW. That's me.
Okay. Gotcha. I'll keep that in mind. If any of our engineers are there, take a picture and send it to you.
Yeah, do it, man.
Yeah, it's super cool.
But
because were you on doing much of the robotic weld side of things?
So Fanuc splits our sales teams into 3 buckets. Okay. We have painting robots, welding robots, and everything else. And we call the everything else general industrial. My role with Fanuc is general industrial. So I get into palletizing, packaging, assemblies, deburring, quality inspections, food, beverage, medical, pharmaceutical, Lord Almighty, it just goes on.
All the handling.
Every material handling, pick it up and set it down. So I live in that world. And then for the welding side, we have very, specific guys who that is their niche. That is where they live. And, we've got a pretty good relationship with Lincoln Electric as well. Not that we won't work with a Miller or Fronius or whatever, but Fanuc and Lincoln are a very powerhouse combo. Yeah. And so between the Lincoln side and the Fanuc side, we've got that world right there.
Gotcha. So do you like, say for instance, like for like your position, is there also a counterpart that's on the welding side for your region?
Yep. Absolutely. Gotcha. So at least in the southeastern United States, Gary Kowalski. Hi, Gary. He's the head honcho of welding in the Southeast, at least. Gotcha. And then I forget up by you, it might be Mike Sharp. I'd have to look, but they've got a me of painting and welding for every region, and then they've got a me for general industrial in every state as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll have to get a hold of them so that way we can land some RFQs in Florida.
Hey, dude, do it, man. I welcome you to the Sunshine State anytime. Let's go.
Oh, I'm definitely ready. I'm still debating on like where we're going to end up headquartering at. I kind of want to headquarter hometown, but I don't know. It's just, I also kind of would like to live in a bigger city. So we're in Evansville, Indiana, Southern Indiana. Yeah. And we're the 3rd biggest state in Indiana, but I don't know, like there's just so many bigger cities that there's definitely a level. Like you just go up just a little bit in size. Like Indianapolis is like it's much more of like my vibe. Like there's just like a lot of vibrant energy, people moving around and doing stuff. Like, we're in Atlanta now. Like they kind of have that vibe of just things just going. But
I used to spend a lot of time in Indy just for fun at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I used to come down for the motorcycle racing and everything. That's my other passion in this world is 2 wheels and an engine. Nice. And so bikes on, you've probably been to Bikes on Meridian. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
But I haven't, no.
Oh, it's insane. So Meridian right downtown Indianapolis, tens of thousands of bikers all show up, and it's just a big old party. And I don't know, now I've got Daytona Bike Week in my backyard, so that works. But Indianapolis is an awesome spot, man. I've always had a good time there when I lived in Michigan. But I know what you mean. It's strategic too. Like when I moved to Florida, my boss just told me, move to Florida. I mean, I could have lived in the Panhandle, Jacksonville, Miami. I could have lived anywhere, but you got to be strategic, right? I'm like, okay, I'm in sales. I'm going to be traveling a lot. I need to be in the middle of the state so that I can get to Jacksonville just as fast as I can get to Miami. Yep. Okay, middle of the state. I went and checked out the Atlantic coast, like Melbourne area, and checked out the Gulf Coast, anywhere from Tampa down to Fort Myers, and kind of had to see which one spoke to me better. And I don't know, I'm just a West Coast guy. I grew up on Lake Michigan. I like sunsets, not sunrises. And so ended up in the middle and ended up in Bradenton, So the same thing you're going through, finding your headquarters, you got to figure out what's beneficial for business, what's best for travel, where do you want to live?
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Finding employees, where do employees want to live? Like, it's like maybe like, so like one thing like Indy, the thing I like about Indy is that I feel like it's very centralized, like especially with where we are. So we're at, southern Indiana, like 3 hours south of Indy. Then you have Chicago up here, you have Detroit right over here. We have customers all along the Ohio by the lake. And so it's just like really everything's kind of like in the same direction. You can get to any of the places for about the same amount of time. And I feel like Indy's very centrally located, but ideally, I personally would like to live somewhere where it doesn't get as cold.
Man, I'm telling you, yeah.
And also too, like if you live in Florida, if your headquarters in Florida, it's probably a little bit easier to get people to relocate.
Hey, we welcome you, man. We'll come on down. You can get Robots in the Sunshine State too.
Awesome.
Changes in latitude, changes in attitude, baby.
Awesome. You see yourself sticking around in Florida for a long period of time?
I do. In fact, within Fanuc, I recently had the opportunity to move back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I used to live. And that was probably the second hardest call of my entire life was, do I leave Florida and go back to Charlotte? Because my wife and I, when we left Michigan, we looked everywhere. Like, where do we want to be that there's not snow, right? And I mean, we looked at California. Nope. Then we looked in, South Carolina. We looked in Georgia. We actually looked at Florida, and we were like, no way, that's for old people. And like, we looked everywhere, and we really fell in love with Charlotte, North Carolina. It was just like perfect. You got the mountains, you got lakes, you got the ocean, you got all four seasons. It just skips the crappy one. And we loved it there. And moving to Florida was kind of sad, right? It was bittersweet leaving like our dream spot to be in Florida. And now that we've been in Florida for 5 years, even when I had the chance to move back, I was like, no, I'm just going to stay right here. Like, the slogan here is we live where people vacation.
Right.
Like we live where people vacation. It is eternal sunshine in paradise. Yeah, it's hot and sticky. And yeah, we just got blasted with Hurricane Ian. That wasn't too fun. But like, it's just awesome here, dude. It's just crystal clear waters and palm trees. And it's kind of a different pace of life. And I walk into companies and I'll meet the CEO of like a multi-million-dollar company, and the dude is in flip-flops and a Hawaiian shirt unbuttoned with a beard and a ponytail. I'm like, that dude is worth $20 million, and he's walking around like Cousin Eddie. And it's just, I mean, it's Florida, man. It's real. It's a vibe. But like, we love it here. My wife and I, we love it here. I love to ride motorcycles. I love to play golf, and I can ride and golf 365 days a year. It's just beautiful. It's a good time. Pretty easy to get family to come down and see us. Yeah. And dude, my territory goes to Puerto Rico and the Dominican. I mean, I'll be in Puerto Rico in a couple of weeks here, right after Thanksgiving, seeing all my friends on the island.
That's awesome. How often do you get to travel like that?
Well, it used to be, at least 2 or 3 times a year. And then the pandemic really made that a problem. Not only was everything shut down on the island, but with the quarantine rules, like, dude, you could go down there, get a negative swab, and now you're stuck in a hotel in Puerto Rico for 14 days. Wow. So it was really, really, really hard. Taking care of all my customers in the Caribbean for the last couple of years. But I'm really hoping to start ramping up again. This will be my first trip down in like a year and a half, which is a sin. But so this will be my first trip down. I'll be down there for a week. And then normally like once a quarter, maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year would be good, just to see them. But that's where you can use Zoom and Teams and WebEx to your advantage, be as present as possible without booking a flight.
Sure.
But there's also direct flights from Fort Lauderdale to San Juan. So pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's super cool that you get to experience that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what type of strings you had to pull to get that job, but
Yeah. No kidding, man.
Yeah.
I think there's people waiting for me to get hit by a bus so they can get my territory.
Yeah, I'm sold on it. I'm ready to go to Florida now.
All right, man. Come on down. We'll have dinner and plan out where you're going to move.
Let's do it. How is manufacturing down there? Is it pretty good?
It is awesome. So that's one thing people don't think about Florida. They think about the tourism and they think about old gray hairs who are retiring, but the manufacturing is really strong here. It is there's and I think a lot of it too has been like expedited because of the pandemic. You got a lot of California and a lot of New York and everyone all moving to Florida, whether it be political or economic or weather or whatever, pick one. But like the generation before me and you, right? Like the baby boomers, they would work at the plant for 30 years and then retire to Florida. But our generation, we're like, dude, I can work anywhere I want. Why would I wait till retirement to go live where I want to live? I don't care if that's Colorado or California or Florida, pick one. And so that's kind of what my wife and I did. We're like, dude, we can make a living anywhere. Let's go live somewhere we want to live. And so many people are doing that businesses follow. Money follows, economy follows, more workers, more talent, more labor, more engineer. Business owners from the north are moving their businesses down here. Florida's got a lot of medical and pharmaceutical. And then we also have a ton of just machine shops, whether it's parts that are going on boats or a lot of firearms manufacturers. There's just a lot of machining going on down here. And what a perfect spot for a robot. Load in your bar stock, pull out a done part, load in a blank, op 1, flip it, op 2, pull it back out, dump it. So machine tending, I can keep a CNC machine running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no bathroom breaks, no sick days, no holidays. You're making parts. Yeah. Hard to beat that, Yeah. And so, I have nothing but good things to say about the Florida economy right now. It's banging.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things as we're like mapping out what our sales territories were going to be, was, just doing research and whatnot. And I think one of the cities in Florida is ranking within the top 10 in the country for manufacturing growth.
Dude, I totally believe that. 100% believe that. I mean, I would say, some of the hot spots like Jacksonville is blowing up, Tampa is blowing up, and southeastern Florida, like Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. Orlando is definitely, touristy and a lot of, Mickey Mouse, Universal, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot going on in that too. But those pockets are really spiking. It's really been good. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, it might've been Tampa that was one of the ones that was ranking.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole Tampa St. Pete area is just awesome. Airports that fly in and out, international, super easy to get to. Again, I-75 and I-4, everything just kind of congregates right there. You're right on the bay. Tampa's been really good.
Awesome. What other things do you have? What other valuable tips do you have for individuals trying to get into our industry?
Yeah. Loaded question. So I would really just encourage people to talk to anyone you can get your hands on and siphon as much knowledge before you make a decision, or you're going to end up making the same mistakes that other people make and history will repeat. So, I mean, whether that just means connect with someone on LinkedIn and have a phone call, or go grab a beer with someone and have a super honest conversation and be like, hey, I'm looking at getting into this. What does it take? What was good? What was bad? Like, people talk to me about getting into sales, and I tell them what I told you. It sucked. It was hell. And now I love it. So be prepared for that dip, right? Like, I think it's just so important to talk to the people who paved the road before you. And just it can really like skyrocket and get you over that hump fast. It's just do your research, talk to people, go grab a beer, and a lot of people will be willing to tell you what you need to know before you make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like part of my reasoning for asking like some of the Florida questions.
Yeah.
Right. I have a guy who's in our industry working down there in Florida, right? Like, the perfect person to be asking, like, is it a good spot to be for somebody in our space,
Totally. Yep. I can give you very clear insights as to who's welding what in the state of Florida. Right. So, I mean, it's a phone call we should probably have, and I think those are big. And then going back to how we even started the conversation, people who are looking to get started, look for what drives you and motivates you. Look for that spark, that like aha moment. And for some people that might be business ownership, like you. For some people, it might be the comfort of working for someone like what I do. And for some people, it might be a robot or a PLC, or maybe you want to be the electrician. You want to be in the panel build. You want to turn a wrench and be active. You don't want to sit at a desk. Some people like to travel. Some people are homebodies. Yep. I think you got to figure out, like, everybody has some talent, some gift. Just figure out how you can make money off of that and be happy doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think also, like, you kind of touched on it, but like just trying to get an idea of what it is that you want to do, kind of knowing whether you're a homebody or you want to be on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was one of my things. Whenever I first, when I first started getting into this and going to school for this, I was kind of searching after money, right? I wanted to make good money because I knew if I was financially sound,
Yeah.
then I knew I could shift, right? I knew I could, if I wanted to do something different, I would have the financial capability to do it.
Yep.
And, so that landed me as being a controls engineer, like PLC robot programming, because it's one of the highest paid.
Yep.
I knew traveling. A lot of people made good money for traveling.
Road warrior, baby.
Yeah, that's what got me into system integration. It was like, okay, what has traveling? I'm asking my teachers this, hey, what type of jobs have traveling? What type of jobs, what pays the most in this career field? And, they were able to give me those insights. And actually, that question is what brought my teacher to say, actually, I graduated with somebody who owns their own system integration company. Let me connect you. Right. And that's literally how the whole cookie crumbled for me. Is she contacted them. I landed a job with them, like my first semester in college. Yeah. And I spent 8 years at that company.
Dude, I love that. I love hearing that. That's literally how it should be. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
And I think another big thing is it's getting on like LinkedIn, getting connected with podcasts like this. You know how many names that you've mentioned in this podcast here that are now people you could search on LinkedIn and, oh, who is this? What is he doing? Where does he work? Like,
totally.
And just watch their posts, see the things they're talking about, and it'll be so insightful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, awesome. Dude.
Where can people find you at?
All right. Find me on LinkedIn. Search my name, Adam Willea, Willea. Find me on YouTube. If you're wanting to learn robots, follow my channel. I try and upload once or twice a month with all cool stuff. Find me on YouTube. I've got all kinds of Fanuc training. And certainly if you live in Florida, you can hit me up. It's pretty easy to get a hold of me. You can even just put in a web inquiry on fanucamerica.com and put in a Florida zip code. It'll come straight to me. Nice. So find me on Fanuc, find me on Florida, find me on YouTube, and find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk to people. Always.
Awesome. Yeah. And I definitely respect the YouTube thing that you have going on as well, because like whenever we started our YouTube channel, that's what it was tailored to be. It was more of like the tutorials for engineers, but with me being the host of that and trying to do those engineering videos and operate the company, it's very hard to sustain. By the
It's
time
a
you get connected to the, by the time you get connected to the PLC and you get, you know what I mean? You get all that set up. You spend an hour getting things ready just to shoot the video.
serious. People don't realize how much it goes into a YouTube video and the content and the practice and then the editing and the setup, and a lot goes into a 20-minute video. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think our first YouTube video was like, it was either, I think it was connecting a Fanuc robot directly to a ProFace HMI.
Nice. Yeah.
I think is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we were maybe using like Modbus or something like that with it.
Yeah. I think one of my very first videos was connecting a Fanuc robot to an Allen Bradley PLC.
Really? Nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Just
So
common questions, helping people out. Most people who have an Allen Bradley probably have a Fanuc, and most people who have a Fanuc probably have an Allen Bradley. I mean, it's two big gorillas in the room. How about a video to show how to hook them up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So guys, definitely, if you're a controls engineer, go hit up his YouTube channel because you'll learn a lot.
Thanks.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being on our podcast today.
Dude,
looking forward to
thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this was a joy. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, same. Likewise. And I'm looking forward to seeing you down in Florida.
You bet. I'll see you here.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks.